He's counting up, not down.
Yeah, you gotta count down.
8, 6, go.
Hello and welcome to the Talkcast Podshow, the #1 show on the internet and the greatest bounty hunters in the galaxy. I am your host, the president of the Boba Fett Book Club, Lanny Pator, and I am joined this week by the smuggler of all the spices, Introspective Spy.
I love them spices.
The spices are great.
Spice must flow.
He who controls the spice controls
everything.
Yeah.
Universe. Yep.
Exactly.
Gotta keep it.
Got to keep it going. I mean, last time we were here, we were talking about Dune. Now we're talking about another sandy, arid planet that happens to have no lack of moisture for whatever reason.
Yes, and yet plenty of spice.
Yes, all the spice.
I'm only going to be here if it's sci-fi, it's spice, and it's hot.
We'll be here to talk about the Old Spice deodorant line sometime down the line here. But before we get to the Book of Boba Fett, got a couple things I want to tackle in the rundown. First and foremost, we got a new parody of Jojo coming out. You've seen part 1 in X minutes. You've seen part 2 in X minutes. But are you ready for the third one? The third part.
Part 1 of part 3.
Part 1 of part 3. Part 3.0, which will be followed by 3.5, I guess, at some point down the line. Because that's a coming. It's a coming down the pipes to enter your eye holes to get filtered into your brain tubes for your enjoyment later on. Undisclosed time. I know Kaiser's working on it.
This month. It should be this month.
Should be this month.
As long as nothing goes horrifically wrong this month.
One thing already happened where he had like the footage ready, and then he went to go lay down some visuals, and it turned out he had like the broadcast stuff that was like heavily censored, so he's like, shit! He had to get his Blu-rays ripped so he can get the right footage in there, and now it's coming along this month.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. What a way to celebrate Valentine's than with 5 beefy, burly men and a dog.
Perfect time for me. I'm not sure.
Nothing wrong there. Beyond that, Hiffle episode 5 got a script. I just recorded my lines just before this, so that'll be getting put together here for hopefully next month. Yep. Is our shoot for that one. But that is pretty much everything when it comes to TFS, when it comes to other media out there that I've been absorbing. We're going to do a whole episode on this, but have you seen Peacemaker?
I've been keeping up with it, yes.
It is, just as good as Suicide Squad. I was astonished with how much I've actually enjoyed this show, but James Gunn just continues to impress.
It is one of the few shows where I do not skip the intro.
I try my damnedest to dance along to it every time.
I'm not that brave, but I just like the judge.
I try, but God damn, that song slaps. It's on my workout mix now, easy. So stay tuned for the next Talkcast. We'll be talking about Peacemaker in depth, but if you're not up to date with it and have the ability to watch it, recommend it if you want to. You want a little brief review. It's good.
Yeah,
I think it's great. Unless you're really not into body horror. The last episode. Horrifying.
If you like Suicide Squad, you're familiar with the same kind of style because it's the same level of gore, I feel.
Same level of gore, but a bit more like, oh shit. Like you see the process of the shit happening and it's like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So if you can't stomach things like that, like body snatchers type things, maybe, trigger warnings abound, but
heads explode. I don't think like spoilers say heads explode.
Yeah, no, it's a very bloody, gory, sexy show. So bear that in mind, but I think it's real good. It's way up my alley.
Small point, equal opportunity sexy.
Yeah.
It's not just a whole bunch of boobs. You get to see some nice abs.
Very much so. It's John Cena.
Packages galore.
Yeah, they spent like 10 minutes just on John Cena and underpants in the Suicide Squad movie, so no lack of that there either. It's very interesting for somebody who watched, wrestling when it went from WWF to WWE, and John Cena is just this amazing little baby face going out there for the kids, doing all the Make-A-Wish stuff, and to see him pull off this character, which I think is a brilliant transformation because he's basically moved on with his audience who started as kids and now they're older and want some more mature things.
But it's not like he's in the latest episode he did something just along those lines.
Yeah.
It was a nice little hearkening back too.
Mm-hmm. It's a very cute and honestly oddly charming show in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So Heavily recommend that. We'll be talking about that on a future episode. Played a bit of Sifu that came out this week. First impressions, I think it's very good. Very hard, but very good. I'm getting my ass beat. This is not a game you go into and just mash through things. It is you have to position yourself. Very calculated is the combat in Sifu.
I've heard that if the combat wasn't a problem, it's very short. It's pretty much the mastery of those fights.
It's just five levels. They're not necessarily short levels, but they're kind of split into 3 sections. At least so far that I've seen. But you unlock shortcuts as you go through with these roguelite elements.
Okay.
So you get a key card. It's okay, I can skip this chunk of the level now if I want to. But if not, you can go through and master the level. It is a game that is designed for you to master it, and I look forward to continuing to attempt to do so. Because, whoo boy, it is a tough experience so far. Beyond that, I think we can move on to our main topic, unless there's anything that has come out that recently that you've been trying out. I personally have not played the new Pokemon game. Don't know if you have.
I have. I've been living vicariously through Kieran Grant's playthrough of it.
Because they got a playthrough going over on youtube.com/TFS Gaming. Check it out.
Aside from media, the only thing I've really been digesting is I've actually gotten back into Guild Wars 2. MMORPG. I can't get the acronym out fast enough.
Mamorpig.
Yeah. So I know everyone's been doing Final Fantasy 14, but I can never get into just how slow that grind in the beginning is. I got turned off right away. Guild Wars 2 had me from the get-go. From 2012, I did drop off for 3 years when I went to law school, but then I came back, and now there's a new expansion coming out at the end of the month.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Still supporting it after all this time.
It's not. They call it the End of Dragons, and it's going to be kind of ending this massive story cycle that started with the beginning of the game. But they are saying it's not the end of development. So you finally get to go to the Canthan continent, which is their essentially Asian sort of inspired area, which got controversial because back in 2012 when they first released it, they had a city that had all the different cultures in it, and they had a Canthan quarter. Turns out there was a big fight from China about that kind of being just appropriation. So they had a giant hole open up in the city and just devour that entire district.
Well, now you don't get it.
Yeah, no, it's now it's a giant hole in the ground because what else are we going to do? So seeing that finally get brought in for real is pretty good. You're getting a lot of it Asian-inspired themes and whatnot. And I've just been trying to grind through the story, so I'm ready to finally play that expansion when it comes out. So that's taken all my free time.
Okay. Yeah, I remember playing that back when it first came out, 2012, you said. I love that it emphasizes more exploration and stuff than a whole lot of that grindy mission-based combat.
Yeah.
You'll be exploring an area, and then some world event will pop up and be okay, here's a good way for you to earn XP and stuff like that. So you just hop in and do that real quick, and then you move on your merry way. I don't even remember if I tried following a quest line in that. I just explored.
The only quest line you get is kind of just the story that takes you through all the regions. When you're in a region, most of the stuff that you're using to get XP or discover is through just moving around the world and seeing what happens, because everything that happens that would give you experience is dynamic.
One of the reasons I actually popped in there was back when it was in beta. I guess somebody who worked on the game was a fan of ours, and they inserted as a ghost character in the game. This is back in 2012. There's this ghost guardian kind of standing out, big bald guy. It just says Ghost Guardian Nappa.
Wow, I know it. I think I can guess where that person is. I never seen them.
Yeah, it was this was again back in this would have been back in 2010, so real early days of TFS at that point. So it was holy shit, somebody put Ghost Nappa in a fucking video game.
Wow, I should really go back and see how many references there are. Because I know because there's this whole area that's specifically populated by ghosts. I know if it's there, he's in there.
It's possible. Yeah, I can't remember.
Well, that area has not changed since the game was released, because the whole idea with the story is that time's only really progressing when you go to these other places. It's still 2012 in that starter region.
Yeah.
Which I think, unlike WoW, I think it's still able to make it work because the nature of the map is dynamic. There are things you probably haven't seen because you've done them and moved on. So, go play Guild Wars 2. Go find me, I think, on Storm Bluff Isle. I don't remember what server I'm on.
See if you can find the Ghost Guardian Nappa. But yeah, that's real cool. It's interesting to hear that they're still supporting that game so far after release.
Especially since it's been trying to hold its own. They've been adding microtransactions. They've had their inside. It's an
because it went free to play. Didn't it?
I think it's for like the
base, not subscription based anyway.
Yeah, no, it's back when I first got it was you buy Guild Wars 2 as like a $60 game and then you're done.
Yeah,
you don't have to subscribe. Everything is there. It's still like that, I think, but the problem is for a lot of the story content, because they have seasonal stuff these days, you have to buy individual slots.
Like season passes and things like that.
So it's like it's still not subscription based, but the investment is probably a bit higher, though I think maybe the base Guild Wars 2 game is free. So I'm not sure.
So it's kind of how the Old Republic, to kind of segue into Star Wars a little bit, handles it, where you can go the subscription model and you get a whole bunch of premium stuff with that. Or you can do it for free and you just do what the fuck you're gonna do.
Yeah, the Cartel store is the same thing, Guild Wars 2. I'm not sure if they have a subscription model. I don't use it, but it's very much like that.
All right. Well, speaking of Star Wars, the Book of Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. It came out and I skipped the first 3 episodes. Like when it started streaming, I was like, I don't know. Like Boba Fett never really interested me as a character. I knew him as the guy that looked kind of cool, but got essentially killed by a blind Han Solo, accidentally bashing him in the back, and then he fell into the Sarlacc pit, and he was gone.
Yeah, no, and it's like one animation in the holiday special, and then that. And then they kind of retroactively brought him back into episode 4, where he stares at the camera.
Yeah,
that was so weird. He just walks on the screen and then just looks at you.
And in the special edition, I think they added a bit more into episode 5, like more of his involvement in Cloud City.
I believe so.
A few more shots of Slave One tracking them and stuff. But ultimately, kind of a non-character, just really cool looking. I mean, he's a space Spartan.
Yeah,
come on.
I'm kind of right there with you. I didn't pass on the series because I'm, I guess, way too much of a Star Wars fan for my own good at this point. I have all of these books, if you even know what this game is.
I do. I hate the fact that they have to keep bringing out new dice.
They're proprietary dice. But
they're awful. Awful.
Next time when I'm on the Talkcast Podshow, we'll be picking this game apart.
Look, Fantasy Flight... I love the fact that you make some very interesting Star Wars games. Just use fucking numbered dices. Just use number dice.
Well, they were actually the victim of corporate mergers, but that's a whole nother story.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, they got me hook, line, and sinker, not because it was Boba Fett, but just because it was Star Wars and The Mandalorian was good, so I guess I'm giving all these shows a good chance. So I've been following it since it first came out, though... Man, I don't want to get too far ahead, but they burned me on this finale.
A bit. Like, we'll talk actual spoilers soonish, but overall, if I'm to give my impression of this show, I'm really glad I skipped the first 3 episodes so I could kind of binge them, because, oh boy, it's trying to tell this, like... It's trying to tell a story in Star Wars that you haven't really gotten before. This whole, like, criminal overlord of a syndicate type story, which that can be interesting. Yeah. I love Breaking Bad. I love The Sopranos. I love a whole bunch of things I love The Wire. I love lots of things that this genre kind of fits with, but they do nothing interesting with it.
No.
It's mostly like Boba Fett sitting in a room for a lot of the times, and then him sitting in a bathtub for a while and flashing back to arguably more interesting things. Like the Tusken Raider tribe stuff is actually kind of interesting. I thought that was a better story that they could have been telling.
Yeah, I could sum this up. I could sum up my experience with the show in one word: annoying. Because there are so many nice little kernels in here that I feel like a writer better invested in this story, not trying to build this giant meta narrative for Disney Plus Star Wars, can have a lot of fun with. They did not use any of them.
Yeah, because I think it could have been real interesting if they actually focused on, because they tell the most interesting story off screen, where it's like, oh yes, because the show opens with Boba Fett just being the crime boss of one of Tatooine's cities and like kind of feuding with some of the other crime lords in the area. It's like, oh yes, ever since you got your armor back and you took out Bib Fortuna, now you're in charge. Like, can I see that?
No, you did. You saw the one.
You saw the one shot of Bib Fortuna going, ah.
Yeah, the 1 minute shot at the end of Mandalorian season 2, and that was it for that sort of setup.
Yeah, or at the end of like episode 3, I think they showed that. Just like, and then he won.
Oh yeah, they did have the other thing in the palace, but that was, like I said, annoying.
It's like, okay, so apparently, because the way they depict the show and his syndicate, He has one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has...
It's just Fennec.
He has Fennec Shan. And it's made to sound like, yes, and at the very beginning, he's brought these two Gamorreans, and it's like, these two fought to the death for their master, and they didn't betray him. It's like, okay, will you work for me now? It's like, okay, I guess. And then the two Gamorreans work for him. It's like, okay, now he has 3 people. Who did he fight? Bib Fortuna with? Who captured the Gamorreans?
I mean, there is the one Matt Berry kind of major domo droid.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt Berry can read a phone book and I'll watch, but God, I mean, I really do want to have a spoiler-free segment, but there's so much that frustrates me, especially as the show went on, that's really hard for me not to get into it.
All right, then let's stick with like the basics here. I think it does some interesting things, but none of it involves Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. I think there are some like neat little tidbits you get. I think the flashback segments were my favorite parts for Boba Fett because it actually gave him character development. Yeah, you get kind of like a Dances with Wolves, Lawrence of Arabia vibe from it, and that's pretty interesting. And you get to learn a bit about the Tusken Raiders and how they actually survive. Mm-hmm. It's cool. And how they're not just brutes in the desert, which is always nice. Yeah. So that part's interesting. It's fairly short-lived. Pretty much everything else is just kind of meh. Yeah. And at least anything that's anything centric. Involving Boba Fett beyond that point is just kind of meh. To dance around the elephant in the room, there's something else that happens that does make you more invested in the show, but kind of just it curb stomps Boba Fett. Yeah, it does not involve Boba Fett in the least, and not much of more of a pamphlet of Boba Fett, really. It's just, it really feels like this was more of a subtitle than an actual name of the show. Like, they couldn't think of anything else. Like, well, Boba Fett's kind of the center point of this, so I guess it's his book? Kind of ends like Boba and Pals, doesn't it? A bit, yeah. Like they're uniting the Super Friends. Yeah. And like he even has his weird little Vespa riding biker gang. And here's the thing. Like, I even went on to Twitter to say this. I don't hate that kind of group as a concept. I feel like having them here, especially on Tatooine, it does feel a little weird. They look like they'd be on Coruscant. I said Corellia. Corellia would also work. It feels like the world building in this show is almost non-existent. Like, they did a little bit of stuff when it comes to the setup of Mos Espa, but everything else feels like flying by the seat of your pants. Like, you think Tatooine, you think like, Mad Max, you think like actual cowboys, which they play into much heavier later on, but then you have this weird color-coded biker gang, like with their own individual Power Ranger Vespas. And all glitzed up with these droid parts, which where'd they get the money for that? And they do next to nothing at all. Real wasted characters. I would have found it interesting if it was like they were experimented on. Like there was some conglomerate that came in and was like, we'll find poor people, test out these droid parts on them, and then we'll leave. And then that makes a lot more sense than these. They're not punks even, but they're just hoodlums. Yeah, it feels like 1950s kind of gangs. Yeah, exactly. Star Wars. Like they're the tunnel snakes, basically. Yeah, and then you had the car chase in episode 3, which honestly, when it comes to cinematography and directorial stuff, I'm nowhere near an authority on that. But even I can tell in a lot of these shots is like, you really could have done a lot better. Especially, it looked like they were going 10 miles an hour. I swear, I remember Space Mutiny. It's like, put your helmet on. We're going to be reaching speeds of 5. Yeah, it's just.
Quick question: do you know if they're shooting this on the volume like they did The Mandalorian?
I don't think so. I think because so much, especially in the finale, so much of it just felt like green screen with kind of weird lighting choices. And again, industrial lights and magic, their visual effects are great. Yeah, like it's that's not a question.
With The Mandalorian was so groundbreaking and everything.
Yeah, but I feel this definitely feels like a much more budgeted thing. At least for the first season. This felt like they wanted to just tell the Boba Fett crime story, but then they're like, this isn't very good. We need to add something to this. It really does feel like they had a first draft. It went to a committee and they went, this is not interesting enough to market. You need to put in X, Y, and Z. Yeah, we need something to bring people in. And I guess at this point, I don't not recommend it. If you're a Star Wars fan, I think there's enough to glean from this that you can be interested. Well, and here's the problem. If you're a fan of I mean, if you're a fan of this, you have to watch this because they've sandwiched the story threads together.
A bit, yeah. So it's one of those MCU things where if you want the full story, you gotta keep going or read the wiki. But I'm saying if you have to choose between reading the wiki and watching it, it's not the worst watch in the world. Just the first 3 episodes kind of drag.
If you go into it knowing that you'll get Boba Fett's backstory up to this point, and then it kind of shifts gears, it's tolerable. Because
there is some like cool stuff in the first few episodes, like watching like inside of the Sarlacc pit. It's like, oh god, this is horrifying. This is cool. I like this. To show more of this. Where'd that stormtrooper come from? I don't fucking know.
Yep.
But
and he's out.
It looks cool.
His Beskar protected him somehow. Well,
it protected him enough, and he was able to cut his way through the side of it and climb out. I can believe that.
Yeah, I mean, if Darth Maul's back, I guess Boba Fett can be back just as easily.
Yeah, although they kill Darth Maul in Rebels, so I guess you already know the end of that story.
Yeah, but I mean, he has like a good 20 years between getting cut in half and then finally dying,
and then finally getting cut in half the lengthwise.
Yeah, that Obi-Wan learned.
Yep. Go for the head. But yeah, not the worst watch in the world. The last 3 episodes certainly better than the first 3. Yeah, that's the overall review. Yeah. Now we're going to be moving on to spoilers for Book of Boba Fett. So there is your warning. It does a lot of things. God. Again, I feel like the biggest issue with this was the fact that they were trying to tell that crime story, and they do nothing with it. Nothing of interest with it.
Well, I mean, let's go ahead and get to the point. We've given you the spoiler warning, so viewer beware. It's Mandalorian season 2.5.
Essentially, yes. Once they realize we have nothing to do here, they cut to Mando.
And it is so frustrating that season 3 of Mandalorian is going to start having nothing like, if you do not watch Book of Boba Fett but only watch The Mandalorian, you're going to wonder what the hell happened, because he's flying around with the kid again.
Yeah.
And that all happens in Book of Boba Fett, and that's, I don't know, it's so ass backwards.
Yeah, because, Mando, he's out there, he's still trying to work with, I guess, the remaining 2 true Mandalorians, including one that actually comes from the line of Vizsla by blood.
Yep.
And he's like, hey, I got this sword. I don't know what the hell I'm doing with it. And they tie back to Rebels a little bit, where he's having trouble wielding it like Sabine did in that show, because unlike a regular lightsaber, the dark saber has such this like current of energy that literally seems to have its own will. Or I don't know, maybe the Mandalorian Vizsla Jedi somehow.
So it definitely goes into the weeds. I've always been a kind of person that's like, even if you can't manipulate the Force, you're still affected by it. So when it comes to a lightsaber, I feel like there's always going to be some kind of knot in the Force there that's going to be messing with you. Like, you can pick it up, slash it, but the more you use it and the less attuned to it you are, the more it's going to be fucky.
The way I think I remember like Rebels explaining it is that, like when you have a blaster, it still somehow gives you kickback despite the fact that you're just shooting light or extremely heated plasma. When you're using the lightsaber, it's firing the beam at all times. So like, Jedis have to train for a long time to do that, so they aren't going to cut their own hands off.
There's always a force pushing back, but then the blade itself has no mass, so it's all still in the hilt.
Yeah, so it's all just like pushing down this way. So when you see them kind of like struggling with it, it's because the thing is manipulating air currents around it or something. I don't know. It's fucky, and you just got to assume that the blade has some sort of mass that it's spitting. Or like it's affecting everything.
I mean, and here's where I'll probably qualify what I said earlier. When it comes to world building, Star Wars has always been kind of fast and loose.
Oh, absolutely. Like, it's more fantasy.
Yeah, if you pick apart any of it, it falls apart pretty easily. But I'm still saying there's kind of a surface level vermicitude. I can never say that word right. Truthfulness to it. Like, it feels like it works. But Book of Boba Fett doesn't. It doesn't even have that. And I feel like that hurts a lot. Because you had Hutt twins show up for 2 episodes, only on screen for 10 minutes, and they show up like, this is our turf. We got it from our ancestor.
This is our cousin's land. Now it's ours.
And then they send Cranston off on one hit job. He fails. And they come back saying, fuck it, here's a Rancor, we out.
Who's admittedly a cool-looking Wookiee.
Yeah, I mean, Cranston, like, he's even in the comics, too, and I'm glad he's sticking around, but why have those twins show up? They seem to only be there to get a Rancor.
Because Boba Fett needed a Rancor.
There are so many different ways to do that, though. Heck, you could have said, the one that Jabba had was pregnant. Or we had this kid over here.
I did think it was funny that Danny Trejo was the Rancor Wrangler.
Yeah, I almost forgot about him.
Yeah, he shows up for an episode, for an scene.
Yeah, and then he just leaves.
Presumably he's down there taking care of the Rancor, but you're not going to put Danny Trejo in every episode.
Also, it was weird in the finale how Boba was just able to jetpack off and then came back less than 30 minutes later with the Rancor. It's like, how close is the palace to Mos Espa?
I guess the Rancor is just really fast when it's motivated.
It could do a little orangutan gorilla jog, pulling itself forward. But
what I found most amusing about the finale with the Rancor is he's bouncing around on that thing, getting tossed around, and then as soon as a little bit of fire goes in its face, it rears back. It's like, oh nope, that was too much.
No, I've been shot like 16 different times from massive droids, but fire bad.
Yeah, exactly. The Rancor is eating shots that would be mentally. It took out a tank.
There were like 2 times where I thought the droids had just killed it.
Yeah, because they're blasting this anti-tank laser into its gut, and it's just like, nah, shut up.
And then of course you have the droid shooting at the foot thick plaster wall where everyone's taking cover, and of course it stands tall.
Yeah, because these things that show up at the end of that fight are like these massive, I guess super droidicas, basically.
Scorpionic battle droids.
Yeah, I think that's what they call them.
Dock worker. Patty, I think. Petty? I forget her name.
Princess Carolyn?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's anytime I hear her, I was like, Princess Carolyn's back.
She's fun, but then again, it's the same problem. It's not Boba Fett's story. It's just the Mandalorian story continue, but you kind of have this little side jaunt with a character.
I think we can go into that a bit because I think that's the more interesting story. So Mando comes back, he's trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the Darksaber, and then he gets expelled from the Mandalorian order because he took off his helmet. Yep. I guess it's no, get out of here.
Yeah, no, they never really. I wish.
How do they eat?
Well, no, because you see that in The Mandalorian Season 1. He takes the helmet off. I guess they just do that in private. Little tiny rooms they go off in to eat, even though he did it by a window.
Yeah, they have their own little booths that they go to eat in.
I honestly, I'm fascinated. I'm interested in their creed. I would like to know, why? Why is it because you don't want your ego in battle? Is it something like that? Whatever. Helmet off, bad. And so he gets exiled, apostate. I always like a good apostate throwing.
Yeah, he doesn't have his 2 friends anymore.
Yeah. The Armor is always, she's fun to be around.
Armor's great.
A nice combination of lore master and badass. And then he ends up. Oh yeah, but then he melts. So we lose the Beskar spear.
Yeah, because he has a new melee weapon.
He has the Darksaber now. So that gets. The fact that gets melted. A little tiny chain shirt.
It's I want to turn this into armor for a foundling. It's okay, just a tiny little chainmail Beskar shirt.
It's so the armorer saw the child, but I'm just wondering, out of context, am I making this for a baby? This isn't going to work in a couple of years, Din. What the hell?
Well, a couple of decades, maybe. Yeah, he's a slow grower.
Oh, but. So, you get the chainmail shirt, and then he's still able to walk away with that despite getting kicked out of the creed or the order. And so...
And he still lives by their rules, essentially. He's nope, this is all I know. That's all I got.
And then he looks at the sack, this reminds me of the kid. I miss the kid. It's been a week since I saw the kid, but I want to go find the kid again. It's probably been more time than that, but anyway. So how does he even end up... Was it just R2 called him? I'm not even sure how he found the planet where the temple was.
I'm pretty sure, it must have been something along the lines of when they left, he must have been to oh yeah, we're gonna be over here. Just I guess
just
Luke just hands him a card or something.
Just call me when you're ready. So yeah. Oh, and of course, sorry, I skipped a step. He goes up to Tatooine first.
Yeah, he goes to Tatooine
because Patty called him.
Yeah, it's hey, you need a ship, right? Yeah, I need a ship. And he has an old Naboo starfighter, and immediately you see when they're replacing it, I hollowed out the droid dock, and they basically make the Homer from The Simpsons, the Homer bubble car. And I'm So he's getting the kid back.
Yeah, no, it's like that's...
So he's getting the kid back.
That's so abundantly obvious the way they handle that. But it's like, yeah. So they have a nice little montage of fixing up a car. And then they go to whatever planet it is. And, wow. I didn't know what they did for Luke. They
had a sound library of phonetic sounds that he had made, and it sounded so stiff. I'm like, what the hell is because here's the thing, it looks fine.
Yeah, no. So there was a thing where between the end of season 2 and this, there was it's kind of hearsay. I don't have it confirmed, but someone went on YouTube and did like a better deep fake of that. They actually hired that guy.
Okay,
which is why I think you end up having actually a much better face.
Yeah,
but the voice is
so stilted. I'm like, they didn't get an actual human to record this, did they? No. If so, I hope they didn't pay him much, except to sound like, I will train him.
To be a great Jedi.
He is conflicted. I don't know what I should be doing for him.
Yeah, it's that.
What is emotion?
Just get a voice actor. There have to be so many people that can...
They can sound like a younger Mark Hamill. I mean, old Mark Hamill can't sound like young Mark Hamill anymore, but I think even he'd do a better job.
Yeah, I mean, 30 years pass, of course. You're not going to be able to sound like you did when you were in your 20s and 30s, but I just hire somebody. It has to have been cheaper. It must have been cheaper to do a casting.
They just wanted to prove that they could, like they did with Peter Cushing in Rogue One.
Maybe.
But it sounded so jarringly awful. Especially the uncanny valley was real.
Yeah, especially when he's playing off a real actress for Ahsoka, and all he can do is give facial expressions.
Because the voice can't emote.
Yeah, no, it can't. And it's bad. And it stinks because I would have liked to see Luke starting out his temple.
Yeah.
And although I'm honestly very sick of Ahsoka, I liked her a lot. I still like her as a concept, but the fact that Dave Filoni puts him in everything he does, aside from Bad Batch yet, is annoying to me. And oh God, sorry, I'm so scatterbrained about this. I like the moment where someone who knew Anakin before he became Darth Vader goes to Luke and says, "You remind me of your father. Let me remind you of your father." That's a great moment. I don't know why it's here. I guess that goes to the whole thing
maybe where else are they going to put it? Who
Mandalorian
knows?
Season 3!
Mandalorian Season 3, the Ahsoka show that they're planning, although that apparently involves a hunt for Thrawn, ?
Just have her start out on the planet. She's just checking in.
Yeah, she could just be there.
Honestly, the whole, it's so intermeshed, and I don't know if I like it or not. That could have been the first episode of Ahsoka, or the second episode of The Mandalorian Season 3. It could have been something that wasn't in the book of Boba Fett, because I wanted the show to be an interstellar crime drama. I didn't get that. But even when I try to meet the show at its level, it's still failing me.
Yeah, I think what bothered me the most about that whole scene was this idea that Luke is the remaining true Jedi, basically.
Yeah.
And so it's up to him how he wants to teach the doctrine. In the movies, we learned that he didn't really read the books or do much of anything. He's just existing. And
page turners, they were not.
Exactly. So the fact that he starts pitching this real old Jedi doctrine of he can't have emotions like that, despite the fact that he literally saved the galaxy by having those attachments.
Yeah.
It goes against everything that his life experience has shown. I was you have to choose. You can either learn to hold Yoda's lightsaber, which I for some reason have.
They're not getting into that.
Not getting into that.
No clue how that's going there.
Or you can wear this chainmail. You can only do one. You can't do both, Grogu. Can't do both, Grogu.
Yeah, no, and there were people...
Choose, toddler!
There were people thinking that was going to lead into a Luke going this is my lesson to you, is that you don't have to choose. You can be attached to the Mandalorian and still be
maybe that is the lesson. Maybe that's where they'll wrap around, or maybe they're just going to get rid of Luke.
I have doubts. I have my doubts.
I have a lot of doubts because at this point we know where Luke's school leads, and nobody wants to think about the fact that a teenage Grogu just got slaughtered by Kylo Ren.
Yep, I wonder... Maybe that was the idea. Maybe I don't know. I don't know if it was they'd written out Book of Boba Fett and they thought, we have nothing we can market with this. Bring back Grogu. Part
of me was actually wondering when they showed up there, because I don't like this takes place almost immediately after Jedi, right? Like a couple of years, few years, because the New Republic exists.
I think it's after the Battle of Jakku. So you have it where the Empire should be kind of still there but weakened.
Yeah.
So that's why it was a big surprise that Moff Gideon was out and about doing all this shit. So the New Republic has been established. I think it's like 5 years after.
Part of me was really wondering when they got to that scene on the planet and they showed like Luke training Grogu. I was almost wondering if there'd be just a tiny little Ben Solo wandering around.
I was wondering if it's like, is Grogu going to be the first student, or is it also going to be?
Is little Ben also going to be there?
He came right after. Luke kind of felt bad about Grogu.
Oh man, I screwed that one up. Oh man, I screwed that one up. I better go find a new student. Hey, Leia, how is your child? I bet he is Force sensitive.
I will train him to be a great Jedi.
He will be a great Jedi, like his father before him, like his uncle before. But yeah, that it was a neat scene. And like it had some cute moments, but goddamn, the Luke thing was real fucking jarring.
Yeah, no, it's like the Luke thing was the main thing that took me out of it, and the fact that it was in the Book of Boba Fett. Otherwise, I liked it. It's just another point against the book. It's why you're making the Book of Boba Fett if you clearly have more interest in exploring the Mandalorian and Grogu's story.
Yeah, because like the fact that they tied that up in this show is fucking weird.
That is really going to grind my gears, because I know people that are only watching The Mandalorians. They're going to go watch the first episode of season.
And Grogu's going to be riding along in the fucking like Naboo starfighters. Wait, what? What happened?
What the hell happened? Oh, go watch the Book of Boba Fett.
Did you not watch the recap at the beginning of this? The recap of the Book of Boba Fett?
And that feels like such a nickel and diming. Like, I mean, of course, if you have Disney Plus, you have Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh no, if you want to watch season 3 of The Mandalorian, you have to watch Book of Boba Fett. Go back.
You go back and watch at least the last 3 episodes.
Yeah, and also watch Ahsoka, because we're putting them in there too.
And next is Kenobi. Kenobi's coming out next. So
and it's going to be the Mandalorian. Don't ask how.
Little baby Mandalorian's going to be there. Even it won't make any sense to you yet. But time travel's coming.
Yeah. Anyway, so we've jumped ahead to what, episode 6, episode 5.
We've been hovering around.
Yeah,
those.
I do want to jump back to the beginning, because we have not only Boba's flashbacks, but also the little bits we get of him trying to be a crime boss in Mos Espa.
Which, again, there's like nothing to it.
I mean, and so let me pitch you something. It may be not the best place for me to do it, but you have Boba Fett. Most of the backstory's still there, where he goes with the Tuskens and then emerges. What if he overthrows Bib Fortuna and goes, I want to establish a new criminal empire of respect, where those who work under me can count on my support, not just my money. Mm-hmm. He goes into Mos Espa and finds those 3 crime gangs already there, going like, fuck you, get out. And he's like, probably episode 3, tossed out on his ass. And he's back at Jabba's palace going, I can't make this. These people are part of the old ways, and I have to either show them a new way or get them out of the way. And that's when he starts going to Freetown, to the mods, to the kind of outlying groups who don't have a place in this society. And he says, "I will make one for you."
Yeah, because
you have this whole buildup of he's building this new empire of outcasts, and meanwhile he's fighting against the established order and the Pike Syndicate kind of moving in on the turf. And then you have Garza Fwip's sanctuary, criminally underused, acting as like kind of a neutral ground, and she's kind of like the power broker, where she's moving and shaking between all the parties. Because goddamn, she looked good in her 2 costumes, and to just blow her up, while very effective for shock value, I feel like is a waste of her character.
It felt like nothing.
Yeah.
Like, because... And then they just kind of spend the last episode bunkered down in a place that they know they could... that they have literal evidence that they can breach.
And they even bring the Major Domo droid, because I feel like Matt Berry needs one more line so he can get a paycheck for every episode. It's just... it's
a lot of wasted potential.
Yeah, no, there's a lot there that could have made for a great... And then you have that economy of scale where it's like, Jabba had holdings across the Outer Rim. I can't do anything with that unless I can at least make Tatooine a power base. So you have the seasonal growth where he conquers Mos Espa, maybe even Tatooine all in one season. And then when he grows out, that's when he runs into the twins, who are muscling in on all the other turf because they're Hutts, they have the established power. But instead, you have the twins show up for 2 episodes, give him a Rancor, and then leave. And all this other stuff in Mos Espa, which honestly just makes everything feel really small, because they never say Jabba had all these holdings. They make it seem like he was just ruler of Mos Espa, and that was it.
Pretty much. Like, he's... God. Like, I feel like the Tusken Raider stuff is almost wasted, too, by the end of it, because all it does is give him motivation to leave and do something, but... You could find motivation there, but still, I don't know. I felt like if he had, you know, at least united some of like the Tusken Raiders, like literally trying to take back Tatooine from these people. Like you said, gathering all these people that have no like real place. I felt like the Tuskens were a big part of that.
He could have built, and you want to tie into Mandalorian? You can tie it into like the first episode of season 2, where he builds on like the alliance between Freetown. Not a big fan of the Freetown name, by the way. I like Mos Pelgo. Right. But between Freetown and the Tusken Raiders, and then build out from that. Use it as an example that, hey, you can live with the Tusken Raiders. You just can't treat them like crap.
Yeah, because we learned in this that the Tusken Raiders are really super violent to pretty much everybody they see, because all these people that come flying through their town, neither of them understand each other. And when they don't understand each other, violence happens. Mostly against the Tuskens.
Yeah, I mean, honestly... Nice Dune parallel. Remind me of the Fremen.
Yeah.
People
which is the exact parallel that obviously was there. But
yeah, no, and they've grown up here. They've been hardened by the harsh climate, and they just are spiky outsiders. No one's tried to understand them.
Yeah, they're the people that know how to commune with the desert. They know how to dig for the water berries that are under the water, under
another
the sand.
part of the world building that's like, are those like droppings of another creature? Is like the multi-armed creature crapping those out? I'm not sure what happens there.
How many of those does it take to feed a bantha?
Yeah, and the banthas, of course, are a whole other problem. My gosh. It's just exhausting, honestly, when you talk about all this missed potential. It's like, you could have done something great. But instead, you just settled for Mandalorian tie-ins and...
Yeah, the biggest missed potential is still like the crime boss thing. They could have done so many different things with that, trying to set up the Empire, trying to set up his own empire, trying to maintain the territory. But instead, he shows himself to be the stupidest fucking crime boss of all time. Where it's like, okay, I'm gonna have a sit down with all the families. Do you guys agree not to get in my way when I fight the Pikes?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, no, we won't get in your way. Good. Immediately turn on him. Yeah. Immediate betrayal.
It's like, how quickly can I get off this grate? I'm sorry. How quickly can I get off this grate with the Rancor underneath me? Okay. And now I betrayed you.
Yeah, as soon as they were out of the room, it's like, so what do you think the Pikes are going to offer for us to kill him?
And honestly, so little bit of credit where it's due. I like the Pikes' little game with Boba, where it's like, okay, the Tuskens are in our way, and we have to pay these swoop bikers for the swoop gang for protection. Why not just play them against each other and then not pay anybody to move stuff through the desert? Yeah. Done. That you could have. I don't know why I'm looking at the mic. You could have written interesting crime drama. You had the little plotting there, but you decided that was it, and the rest should just be Mandalorian. Not only in the sense that the Mandalorian was in it, but just it plays just like it.
And then another bit of wasted potential that really fucking hurt me, like in a way, like when I'm watching the last episode, I'm like, really?
Oh god.
It fucking pissed me off because they brought in one of my favorite characters from Clone Wars, Cad Bane.
Yeah.
He showed up at the end of the previous episode, like Lee fucking Van Cleef, Man in Black, walking into the Freetown and takes out the sheriff, and then he shoots the deputy. And basically just to be like, yeah, no, I'm here to fuck everything up. You don't own this place.
Yeah, could have been a perfect antagonist for the whole season, but only shows up at the end.
Shows up at the end, which, you know, I'm thinking, okay, cool, they're setting up for something. And then they get to the next episode, and he does have some, like, old tie-ins with Boba Fett. First of all, he was the second best bounty hunter to Jango Fett, which always fucking bugged him. And he helped train Boba when he was young in the Clone Wars, which was cool. And then he wrecked all sorts of Jedi shit. Like, he's a really fucking cool character in the Clone Wars. And when he showed up here, I geeked the shit out.
Yeah, there's even a cut episode, since Clone Wars kind of ended so abruptly, where he was supposed to have a shootout with Boba. And Boba was still a teenager at the time. It was after they were kind of split ways. So I guess they wanted to bring that back here. Not very satisfying, honestly.
Not very, because his involvement in the last episode is he shows up at Sanctuary, and he's like, I'm here to negotiate with you for the Pikes. He's like, first of all, why are they sending you to negotiate? Is it just because, do they trust that you are going to get them the best terms in this shit?
I mean, probably because if anything happens, if the deal goes sour, it's on Cad Bane, not us.
And then Boba Fett's like, okay, we're going to have a duel, but not yet. Okay, I guess then. See you later. Walks away.
Yeah, no, that whole finale was so messed up.
And then they finally do have their little duel at the end where he uses a flamethrower to scare off the Rancor, which, okay, I guess Rancors are afraid of fire. I can buy that. It's a very animalistic thing, but again, this thing was taking like anti-tank blaster rounds.
Yeah,
So, I guess, okay, maybe it's the fact that the fire's going into its eyes and mouth, and that's like, nah, screw this, I'm leaving.
Whatever you have to do to make it sure it's just Boba versus Cad Bane. I'll let you get that far with it.
And they shoot blasters at each other. Cad Bane proves that he's just the better gunman.
Yeah.
And then Boba kills him, or supposedly kills him. He leaves him for dead, but you're left on this one shot where there's like this little beacon kind of beeping on his shirt, where it's like, maybe he's not dead.
I honestly thought
maybe he's not dead.
I honestly thought he was going to be in the mid-credit scene, but instead, after a minute of having it paused there and squinting at the screen, I went, "Oh, I think that's Cobb."
Yeah.
I think. That was not telegraphed well.
Not really.
I don't want to jump to it, but I have to say, the last shot we have with Boba and his crew almost ends like an after-school special.
It does.
Where it's like he's tossing my lure on to Crit stand. They're all laughing. It's like, oh no, melon for us, boss?
It's so fucking like weird and...
It's like a crime gang, everybody.
Look, these... What is it, like 7 people? They control all the crime on Tatooine. These 6 people. They have literally no other people with them.
And they don't even get the credit of the closing shot in their own show. That goes to the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he flies off with Grogu. Because that's the one that people cared about.
Yeah.
I even tweeted this out a while ago. The Book of Boba Fett got really good once it stopped being about Boba Fett.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, take a shot every time we mention it, but it's Mandalorian Season 2.5, which...
It's not even like a secret.
Like horrific mesh between a marketing stunt and poor writing. So... Geez, we barely touch on the Tusken Raiders, but it feels like it's just a nice story. It's a nice Dancing with Wolves person acclimates to a foreign culture story, and there's not much else to say about it. There's a whole scene...
Because it's been done a billion times. The only thing we really get out of it is the fact that it's Tusken Raiders.
Yeah, it's Star Wars flavored, but it's the same kind of story.
Yeah, we got to learn about the fact that they have dogs, and that they have... water berries.
And there's a tree still out there somewhere in the desert that they make gaffy sticks from.
Yeah, watching the gaffy sticks get made, I thought that was cool because when you're younger and you're like, I was like, oh yeah, those little metal sticks they have are kind of weird. It's like, no, they're made out of really hard tree.
Yeah. And
they go on like a drug-fueled spirit quest to find it.
Yeah, with a lizard going into their brain. I'm not... I guess maybe it just secretes something in the sinuses.
And still exists and does not damage the brain somehow, but it also affects all creatures the same, I guess.
Also, well trained when it just he opens the pod and it hops right back out.
Because we still never really get to see a Tusken Raider's face, so we don't know if they're human.
No. The closest you get is that there's some sort of filter in the mouth that comes in, and so they're humanoid, but there probably might be something strange under that head.
We also get to see Princess Carolyn speak Jawa, which was admittedly kind of funny.
Oh yeah, because
she dated a Jawa.
Yeah, and she was because I was trying to remember who she was talking to. It was the frog in season 2. So she's quite well versed for just a dock worker.
A repair.
Yeah, and everyone's afraid of New Republic certification licenses. Glad to see the New Republic's just as corrupt as the old one.
Can't escape that. Obviously, wish it was better, but what it gives you, it's It could have been worse. I don't know. I mean, if you're already paying for Disney Plus, it's worth it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you already have Disney, okay. Well, I'll go ahead and say, do not get Disney Plus to see Book of Boba Fett.
No.
If you get it for The Mandalorian, you can you're going to have to watch Book of Boba Fett now, but it's not worth going out to get. All I've gotten out of it is probably some inspiration for my Edge of the Empire campaign, and that's about it.
Yeah. So how are you adding in your Power Ranger biker gang?
If my crew ends up going to a place like Corellia where it makes sense to have modded people, I might just put them in wholesale.
Makes sense to have modded people and their pristine 1950s Vespas.
Yeah, it's like, why on Tatooine? The worst place to have any sort of this guy stuff.
When you're thinking, like, when you think Tatooine, gangs on Tatooine, I could see cyborg gangs on Tatooine, but they're way more Mad Max than these greasers.
That, and I was thinking, like, if you want to have it to be like teenage punks, they probably think Tusken Raiders are the cool counterculture. So you either have Mad Max, you have Tusken Raider wannabes, just anything but cyberpunk, weird kind of cyberpunk on Tatooine. I just don't, it doesn't jive, and I don't like it. I mean, I don't even hate the concept, but why'd you put it on Tatooine?
It's also like, Tatooine is not the most visually appealing place to stay.
Yeah.
Like, you're stuck in the desert. Okay, cool. But when it, like, switches to Mando for the first time, and for, like, a whole episode you see nothing of Boba Fett, you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
I love that fucking, like, Halo ring city he's in. It looks so cool.
Yeah, no, like, pretty much ripped right out of Niven Ring World there, even if it seems, like, much smaller. But just a lot of, it seems like
just a big city and a ring.
Oddly enough, that was the one episode directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. Everything else was, I think, Dave Filoni or Robert
Rodriguez.
Yeah, I think there was one other one.
Which explains Danny Trejo's involvement.
Yeah. Man, it feels like there was a lot of ones in the Robert Rodriguez episodes where the shot was like, what's going on here? I remember specifically, and right after the twins were slowly being walked off the stage, you had Boba look at Cranston and go, you're free to go. And there's just an awkward moment of silence before he starts running off camera. And there's just there's a wide shot where you can see him just go, like, why are we hanging on this? Where we can just see him run off to nowhere.
You telling me the guy that made Shark Boy and Lava Girl made some weird choices?
I guess so. And heck, even in Dave Filoni's episode, it feels like there were a lot of weird angles because that was the one with Luke in the Jedi Temple, where there was just a lot of weird angles to the shots.
Yeah, the one where they introduced all of his characters.
Yeah. God. Filoni! I got just heart to heart. Star Wars fan to Star Wars fan. Look, I'm wearing a nice Death Star shirt. We like Ahsoka, but we don't need her in everything. And honestly, the Jedi stuff can also be left by the wayside. Just, you made something good with Mandalorian, stick with it. Or rather, tangentially, if you're going to spin it off with Boba Fett.
I just hope we never see Luke again. Just if that's how they're going to handle him with the robot voice that is horrifically unnerving.
If they're still shooting Ahsoka, the pilot's probably still going to be on that planet.
Oh, God.
I mean, they had her... She said goodbye in Book of Boba Fett, but who knows?
The thing the thing I'm excited for that is I'm a massive Thrawn mark, and if they're going to introduce him, cool. I kind of hope they do what they did with Cad Bane, where they have the voice actor who's been playing him in pretty much everything do the voice for him, because he can be a CG character.
I wouldn't be surprised if they made it a live action character.
I wouldn't be either.
And then that's just the person's voice.
I wouldn't be surprised by that either, but I've come to so accustomed to a very particular voice for Thrawn. And it would be weird to shake that up in my mind. I'd live with it, but man. Yeah. I was happy to see live action Cad Bane, though. I hope he's not actually dead, because he's a cool character, and I want more of him.
Did you see the videos where people were like trying to tint him more blue? Like they didn't think he was blue enough.
He was plenty blue.
Oh yeah, no. I think the problem was when he was first introduced, he was just on that flat where it's a lot of light is supposed to be bounced back into your face. So even a normal person's gonna look paler than they should. The
way they introduce him, honestly, I think was perfect. Maybe my favorite moment in this entire series, because you're left there for a moment, and like, you know, as Mando left Freetown, goes off to talk to Boba, and like, you know, you cut back, Sheriff's out there, and he's like, just looks off into the distance, and you see that silhouette, the wide brimmed hat, the black cloak, and I'm just like, no fucking way, did they fucking? And as he gets closer and he just looks up, it's like, that's Cad fucking Bane!
Yeah, no, that was pretty good. Although there was an awkward moment, because I do sometimes end up seeing these with my mom, because she also likes the live action Star Wars stuff. She hasn't seen the animated stuff. So, of course, Cad Bane...
You had to explain her.
Yeah, no, and I'm like sitting there going, oh shit. She's like looking at me like, who the hell's this guy? Like, long story, I'll get to it later. Because she, of course, didn't even know who Ahsoka was back in The Mandalorian. Which is also another point where... if you keep intermeshing this stuff, there's going to be times where you have to keep explaining what's happening, and that's a way to really drag down your audience.
Just wait until they start, just wait until they introduce Thrawn, because he's only been shown in Rebels and the books.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's going to be an uphill battle for Ahsoka, because Ahsoka has one episode in The Mandalorian, and then this, and then for most people, nothing else. They're not going to know who this person is, and yet now there's a show about her.
They're gonna have to do something about that. I still don't know what the hell the tubes are on Cad Bane's face, because you see him without them, and he doesn't have holes on the side of his cheeks.
I wonder if that was just a shortcoming of the Clone Wars animation, like his mom, they didn't just do the extra.
Because he's just a Duros.
Yeah, because
raspberries.
Maybe
they have a little thing. I could have sworn it might have just been a thing I read on the wiki, but it was actually like a way he was circumventing being force choked. Where like if they go for the throat, he just goes through the tubes.
That'd be interesting. Like if like it's just another breathing device that like works as something.
And plus, when you see the hat coming off, it's like a whole coif that goes around his head. So no clue, just looks cool, which is kind of Star Wars in a nutshell.
True enough. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we haven't talked about with the book, like regarding the book of Boba Fett.
Fennec Shan is a good. It feels like Fennec Shan was the only other character that got characterization.
Yeah.
Everyone else was just there. Like the mods, just there. Karistan stood there and growled. Even Gwarza Flip, I keep pronouncing her differently every time, but she shows up, looks pretty, has a few nice words, and other than that, gets blown up. No one. It really feels like only her and Boba get characters. Everyone else is just there, which probably also counts against the show, where everyone feels like they're just cardboard standing around being acted around.
Also doesn't help, like, when they go to Freetown and you see that bartender, every time I see him, I can only think of that, like, one character in Doctor Who, like the thumb-headed dude, in like from the 11th and 10th Doctor seasons.
Oh my gosh, yes, no, Thrax, I think.
So, yeah. And every time I see him, I'm like, I know that's supposed to be, like not a Rhodian. I can't remember
Nikto, I think.
Yeah, I know that's supposed to be like a Nikto, but he looks like the thumbhead dude from Doctor Who. Every time I see him.
No, I didn't think that, but now that you brought it up, I can see it. Yeah, I really can. I wonder, it's definitely not the same actor. It can't be.
No, almost certainly not.
But yeah, I totally get what you're going from there. But yeah, it's like Fennec gets a few moments with Boba where she definitely comes across as the more pragmatic of the two. Obviously not having the life-changing experience Boba had. But
yeah, and he saves her. He saves her life in the desert, and now she has like robot abs.
It's interesting. Small point. When she's introduced in Mandalorian season 2, she pretty much says, "My life belongs to Boba Fett." Mm-hmm. But when you see the book of Boba Fett and how they kind of get together, it seems much more like, well, you're fun to be around. I guess I'll stick around. It's not. It seems like much less of a life debt situation than just we're pals.
Yeah, maybe that's just the way she wants to express it. Like, she does feel like she owes this debt, or maybe he is the way or something. I don't know. It's just so... I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like...
He seems like a cool guy. I hope it works out for him, but... Go back to your back-to-bath, which you spend like the first 3 episodes just sleeping in a back-to-tube.
And they never really, it's like they hint at it after he comes out of the Sarlacc pit where she says, you need a back that tanks. Like, so what exactly was being healed that whole time? And then it seemed like there was a major change from injured Boba continuously getting healed to healed Boba, unless that was just the show saying, your character catch-up is now complete, sir.
There you go. Your backstory is filled in.
Yeah, I guess maybe that was it. It was just sort of...
I thought it was along the lines of like, this dude's old. He just needs to be healed more frequently. I mean, maybe that's just the way they sleep. Just like, okay, time to go to sleep so I don't die.
I mean, maybe that's the show trying to excuse the ass he kicks in the finale compared to earlier times. But you see him kick ass in season 2 of The Mandalorian. It's only really that one scene where the ninjas are pinning them in. Also, Boba, you have a jetpack. Don't know why you just didn't lift up out of that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Also, very lucky that when Cranston was fighting the one group of people that didn't have blasters, just he happened to go up against the Trandoshans, who, for whatever reason, only decided to use blades.
Yeah, and he got out of that mosh pit somehow. Also, speaking of Cranston, his initial fight in the palace seems really weird because he's kicking a whole bunch of ass.
He's throwing everybody left and right.
He's throwing people across the room. Boba's still getting healed, getting thrown onto the floor, thrown across the room, and it's just like everyone limps out when he's finally in the pit. It's like, everyone good? Yeah? No? Okay. I guess you really hurt everyone.
I guess we're fine.
You kind of suck at this.
We do finally get to see a Wookiee rip somebody's arms off later when he gets drunk and angry.
Yeah, but it's a Trandoshan. They grow it back.
Eventually.
Yeah, it's just like a little...
Oh, maybe that's why they went after him.
I still feel like they would have done with blasters, though. I imagine getting your arm ripped off is not a pleasurable experience.
Apparently he's very blaster resistant, though, because in that last shootout scene, just like, bam, ow, bam, ow, bam, ow.
They didn't want... They have the...
He's got fucking Dunium skin or some shit.
They didn't want... I imagine it's not... They didn't... They wanted to avoid the problem of nobody can hit a damn thing when it comes to a plot character, but they then circumvented that with that just being...
They're just very durable.
Yeah, no. Shoot them, stab them, they come back.
Like, you see like a couple of sparks fly off him like it's hitting some of his armor plates, but it's like, okay, somebody's got to be hitting me. Yeah, no, he has like a bandolier, that's it.
The Pikes were shooting him in the back at least a couple of times, and I guess they want to say the fur got it.
Yeah, with the Mandalorian, like, you know, with the two Mandalorians with their Beskar, I can understand. It's like, okay, yeah, you're not hitting vital areas. Yeah. Cool, I get that. But you're shooting a Wookiee. Like, I don't remember them putting up that much of a fight when the Empire took over.
Yeah, I mean, when you can make them slaves, it feels like they shouldn't be that tough.
But I guess his skin is blaster resistance.
I feel like that slave comment is going to come back to haunt me. It just seems odd that you have Cranston shrug off armies, but you still have the Wookiees as a species get enslaved by the Pikes, by the Empire, etc., etc.
Yeah, just much more durable than you'd expect.
Maybe he's just a special kind of Wookiee. Very
special. Built different. Cranston is built different.
Built Kashyyyk tough.
Yeah. But that's Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, that's enough whinging from us.
That's everything. What do you expect from Kenobi? Like, when is Kenobi supposed to take place? Like, it's between 3 and 4, right?
It's supposed to be while Kenobi is just keeping an eye on Luke. So I would imagine the threats are going to still be on Tatooine unless he gets called away, and then you have a whole. Grant, it's not like the Book of Boba Fett has burned me on all of this expanded material, but it's definitely made me a lot more skeptical.
Yeah.
Like, clearly they do not seem interested to tell different kinds of stories in the Star Wars universe. They feel like they've hit their formula with Mandalorian, and it might all just be more of the same.
But I guess time will tell. When's Kenobi supposed to be coming out?
I don't know, but I would imagine they're trying to sync these up so they don't have people canceling their Disney Plus subscription in the meantime.
Well, let us know what you thought about the Book of Boba Fett. Did you enjoy it like way more than we did? Because if so, cool. I want to know why. Like, what were the things that like really grabbed you about it? If not, feel free to share in our gripes below, because we had plenty of them. But that'll be it for this episode of the Talkcast Podshow. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you guys next time on the Talkcast Podshow. Later, everybody.